Hi folks, Jason Pritchard here with you with a quick afternoon weather update. The Storm Prediction Center has upgraded part of the slight risk that we saw over West Texas today in Oklahoma into to an enhanced risk for primarily hail, but there's a little bit more of a tornado threat too. But still, the primary threat is going to be hail, and potentially gigantic hail at that. We've got conditions favorable for supercell development, a little upper level disturbance in the mid levels of the atmosphere that's going to help to spark supercells along the dry line this afternoon as the cap erodes. And so I wanted to give you a quickly show you that. Looking at the water vapor imagery, big dry slot here from Baja up into New Mexico into western Texas and south central Texas, where sun is shining in its full capacity, heating up the atmosphere. And we've got a cluster of showers and storms that's been persistent, dumping some heavy rain around and south of the Dallas-Fort Worth area. In fact, Granbury and Corsicana are under flash flood warnings. They've seen up to 1 to as much as 4 inches of rain, another 2 to 4, or 1 to 2 inches potentially expected in those areas. Clouds up and down the central plains and in through the southeast, where scattered showers are falling currently. And taking a look at the radar, you can see that big cluster here south of the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and then up into from Minneapolis all the way down here to Sioux Falls to Grand Island here in Nebraska. We're seeing plenty of rain. Rapid City, got some heavy rain just north of the city. And then look at the southeast over here. We've got plenty of soupy air, and that is kicking off the instability and the heating of the day has kicked off just widely scattered showers and storms everywhere, except up here in the mid-Atlantic and the northern lakes and northern Ohio Valley. Up through the mid-south, plenty of rain falling toward Chattanooga, just east of Huntsville. So we're seeing rain out there in spades this afternoon. There's your enhanced risk, folks. If we take a look here, we can see this maybe a little bit better. But over Texas, the panhandle of Texas primarily, slight risk surrounding that, still the area we saw this morning. And there's your marginal risk around that. Tornado threat, now we've got a 5% risk of tornadoes, some rotation with some of those supercells, a little backing of the winds could create that. Wind threat, not a big widespread wind event we're looking at, but instead we're seeing more in the way of hail. And this hatched area, of course, is significant hail, up to 2 inches or greater in diameter. And there's a 30% risk of that over the panhandle. That's why they've upgraded the risk to enhanced, okay? So watch out in the panhandle of Texas near Abilene up into Lubbock. So pay attention there. The slight risk of excessive rainfall has kind of been broken into a couple of different clusters here. There was a big cluster this morning. It looks like from southern Oklahoma, or sorry, most of Oklahoma into southern Kansas, we're not going to see all that much in the way of excessive rain, but potentially up here into Iowa, back down into Grand Island where we saw before, we're seeing plenty of showers in this area, and we expect that to continue to cluster. We may have a couple of different clusters of thunderstorm cells move through there. Dallas-Fort Worth and the surrounding areas, look for continued heavy rain this afternoon. This cluster will continue to push to the south and the east, may see additional storms fire later. And then over here into the New Orleans area, could see some excessive rainfall this afternoon, and then just a marginal risk around that. Looking here at Dallas-Fort Worth, going, we can really take a look. I wonder if there's a better display I can get on here. This is probably a little bit better. We can kind of see what's going on here. So here are your flash flood warnings. Corsicana over into Granbury, we've got flash flood warnings there. Waco, you're under a severe thunderstorm warning at this time. And you can see down here the cluster. If I put this on the screen and get it over here. This is probably the best I can do, folks, right here today with this view. But you can see how those the really heavy rainfall, and this white areas are hail. There's some large hail here, size of quarters in spots. And so look out for hail with these storms, in addition to heavy rain continuing in those areas. Dew points this afternoon are running in the 50s and 60s up here all the way into Nebraska, Iowa, and then 60s up to 70s, low 70s down here along the southern part of the central south. And so we've got our dry line well defined up and down through Colorado, New Mexico, and West Texas. And as we go through the afternoon, you can see that dry line. It'll advance a little bit to the east through the afternoon, and that will be the spark, along with that little mid-level disturbance. That will be what sparks off some of these supercell thunderstorms through the afternoon. And then overnight, that dry line will retreat back as the atmosphere cools, and we get a little bit of a push of that moist air. And so Looking at CAPE this afternoon, plenty of CAPE around, 2 to 3,000 joules of surface-based CAPE, even more than that in spots. And you can see West Texas, prime real estate for severe thunderstorm development. South Texas, where that cluster hasn't eaten up the instability yet. So plenty of instability down here up through Oklahoma and Kansas as well, going through the overnight hours. That just continues to persist. And eventually that will die out a little bit as we head into the early morning hours. We get on into 8 a.m. tomorrow. We still have plenty of instability out here in West Texas, so we may see a continuation of thunderstorms at time through some of these areas. And there is a look at what's going on now with the radar, projected radar out in time. We're going to run this through. This is this afternoon into the evening. That cluster continues to slowly meander around in South Texas. We've got additional clusters up here in Nebraska where a slight risk exists, and then another little cluster down here in New Orleans. And so all of that is pushing off as we get on into the afternoon and evening hours. Rolling this forward overnight, you can see that cluster kind of dissipates down in southeastern Texas. These little supercells are starting to develop into the panhandle, and with those supercells we'll have rotation. Rotation means strong storms and potentially production of giant hail, and so you can see kind of how those evolve over the course of the evening. This is overnight. We get into the late evening hours. Additional storm activity is persistent across parts of Nebraska and Iowa, and additional showers and thunderstorms will continue to form through the night as the air mass remains largely unstable in these areas. Looking at total rainfall amounts through the central portion of the country, as much as 2 to 4 more inches with these cells down here in Texas, a little area here in Nebraska, Kansas of 2 to 4 inches possible, and again up in Iowa, right where those excessive rainfall threats were. And then the NAM, that's the HRR, and the NAM kind of shows a similar pattern here. The models don't know exactly where the thunderstorms are going to form and the heaviest rain's going to form, but it has a pretty good guess. And so these, when you see agreement like this, you can kind of expect that that's where the risk would be. So pay attention in these areas, ladies and gentlemen, and take it easy this afternoon. Watch for weather warnings that are issued for your area. Have multiple ways to receive weather alerts, and if anything else changes, I'll be back with another update. But that is all that we have going on out there today, and it is a lot. So take care, folks. We'll see you back tomorrow.